All right, guys, we'll start the show here in a couple minutes. We have Chief Kachis in the studio, Mike Kachis, the Chief of Police here in Charlottesville, Virginia. And there is, as you, the viewer and listener, knows, quite a bit to talk about, including some of the news that's in the cycle as opposed to the camping and storage ordinance that was percolated for the city of Charlottesville. An ordinance that, if you watch the program, we were very much in supportive of. We'll talk, just kind of the state of how Charlottesville's doing. Maybe we'll talk data. We'll field your questions. We don't mind being challenged on the program, folks, but it's going to follow a golden rule type mindset. And certainly that mindset for our guests, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat box and I will relay them live on air. We do have local media that watches the program and they are watching now. So any local media, if you want to ask questions, just identify yourself and whether or not it's on the record or not. Judah Wickhauer is behind the camera. We're confirming the channels that we're airing upon. It was good to see Kyle Irvin yesterday. Big fan of Kyle Irvin, as Chief Kachis knows. Yeah. And he's great. He's good. He's good. He's a committed guy. He's good at his job. Elected officials watching the program as well. Like and share the show, and we will get rocking and rolling here, Judah, in about 30 seconds. You have any questions? If you have a 3-shot, J-Dubs, ready to go, happily would weave you into the discussion. Just give me kind of a hand signal and let me know that you have something for Chief Kachis. And then we'll keep an eye on the chat box. I'm seeing us live on 15 Facebook page, J-Dubs. 15 Twitter accounts are confirmed. I will confirm LinkedIn here in a matter of moments on the Thursday edition of the I Love CVille show. Live on YouTube there, Judah. And things are looking good on Twitter as well. I think we are ready, my friend, to rock and roll. Jim Hingley held me accountable yesterday via text with Joe Plantania's last name. There's not 2 N's in Plantania, so please hold me accountable as well.
Is it Plantania or is it Platania?
Platania. Yeah,
right.
Jim Hingley was saying I said it wrong.
All right, I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
Platania. You say it right.
Yeah.
He always says it wrong.
I say it Plantania.
Better say it right,
Yeah, I need to say it right.
Yeah.
I know I need to say it right. And Joe knows that Joe knows I like Joe. Okay. Not many folks that pull off the suit looking sharp with the tennis shoes or the Crocs.
He's
right.
The style, he's got it.
He pulls it off. I hope Joe's watching this program right now and getting a chuckle out of that.
Yeah.
But he's got the style. All right, Judah, things are great. And I'll highlight some of the viewers and listeners that are watching the program and we can start the show. Kadashi, Lonnie Murray, Georgia Gilmer watching the program. James Madison watching the program, William McChesney, Betsy Nugent, Carol Thorpe, Albert Graves, Colleen Tyler, DJ Morbley, Scott Aaronworth, Kevin Yancey watching the program, Janice Boyce Trevelyan, Sarah Hill Buchensky, the folks at Friends watching the program. We got a counselor and 2 supervisors watching the program. Neil Williamson, Free Enterprise Forum. He's going to be on Real Talk tomorrow. Ray Cadell. I got Roger Voisinay watching the program. We got the newspaper, radio, and television on the show. We can rock and roll, J-Dubs, when you're ready.
Quiet on the set.
Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on a Thursday in downtown Charlottesville. Been looking forward to today's program. Got Mike Kachis on the show. He's the chief of police here in our fine and fair city. I've said on this program many times, there's no one who's had a more positive impact than Mike Kachis over the last couple years in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I've heard that statement echoed in so many different meetings and interactions that I have locally, whether it's folks that work in finance or real estate or small business or the nonprofit sector, or just a friend or acquaintance that I see up and down the mall or at the post office while I'm checking the P.O. box. When his name comes up, there's positivity that follows it. And I'm not just saying that because he's here. I think the numbers speak for itself. I think we all remember Charlottesville where it was before he got on the job. And I mentioned to him before the program started that I gain even more respect for him after watching him on the city council meeting, on the live stream on Tuesday night. And he was presenting a camping and storage ordinance, kind of outlining the framework, the pros and cons. In fact, he had a pros and cons slide that he showed council of the camping and storage ordinance. And during his presentation, which I'd say back of the napkin was roughly about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then he had interaction with the council members. I thought and these are my words, but I thought how the folks that were in attendance, the respect they showed him was disappointing. There was heckling, there was interruption, there were catcalls. My words, not his. He'll deflect what I'm about to say now. I also thought the interaction with some of the counselors was disingenuous and disrespectful too. Chief Kachis did not come up with the idea for this ordinance. He's a man that's a cog in an organization, and he was tasked with the responsibility of presenting it to council in front of a meeting that was very emotional. And we talked about that yesterday on the show. Judah Wickhauer is behind the camera. All media watching now. I would like to give some love to our partners, Conan Owen at Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. He's locally owned and operated. Conan Owen is a Darden School graduate, and if your business has a logo and needs visibility, he's the guy to call, Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. Signage, stickers, direct mail, lanyards, badges, this banner behind me. Conan Owen, guys, is honest and trustworthy. Judah Wickhauer, if we can go to the studio camera, then a two-shot, and welcome the man of the hour, a guy who needs no introduction, Mike Kachis. We've dubbed him the George Clooney of policing. He's freshly haircutted. I think that haircut in the last 3 days. No way.
Yeah, I swear.
Is that true?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Good.
Yeah. I got to get a haircut next week.
It looks fresh. It looks fresh.
Appreciate that.
You got a lot of people watching here, Chief Kachis. Why don't we start with an open-ended question? Where would you like to begin, sir?
Well, I guess that's why we're here, talk about the ordinance and the council meeting. So,
what did you see? All right, how about this? Give us the playbook or the flip book of what happened on Tuesday night. How we got there first, before we even got to the council meeting.
Yeah, well, let's talk. So let me start off by saying this, just a few things. First of all, I've said this. I don't think that council meeting was all that bad. I've been through worse. Like I said this earlier. I said, you want to have an exciting council meeting? Put a data center on the agenda. Okay, that's an exciting meeting, right? No, what I saw Tuesday night though was a community that cares deeply about a topic, right? And look, that's not a bad thing. We're talking about some of our most vulnerable neighbors, and so we have folks who care deeply about it, may disagree on how to go after it. I think there's a lot of agreement that at the end of the day we need more housing, right? So how you get there, that's above my pay grade, but the people a lot smarter than me could figure that out. But no, this was a culmination. This was a result of a process that was in place since even before April. So if you remember, the city manager has really been working hard on addressing these complex issues around our homeless neighbors, right, or unhoused neighbors. And on his list was a lot of things: low barrier shelter, housing, and on there was also exploring an ordinance. And Councilor Payne brought this up from the dais that was on that list. And then in April, during 221 meetings, what we had, it came up. We were
What is
talking.
a 221 meeting?
So 221 meeting is a meeting that the city manager has with two councilors at a time. And if there's a specific topic around a specific thing that might be within the police department's realm, then I would be present on it. If it's within, human services realm, that Misty Graves may be part of it. So that's what it is. And so the first one that was with references to this topic was back in April 3rd to be exact. And we spoke about this and had really good conversations about specifically an ordinance. We looked at Roanoke City's ordinance, which is specific to their business district. But when I spoke to their chief, one of the challenges they have is they're looking to expand it out because just having it in a business district push it into neighborhoods, right? And so they're doing their thing down there. But one of the things that came out of those 221s was that, hey, we don't want to just focus just on the downtown mall. Let's make it citywide. So, and then we put together a work group to draft an ordinance. That was the direction, and that's what we did. We then had another 221 on July 31st and August 1st. Those over 2 days to meet with all of them, and spoke about these things as well, and some good questions. And I will say this, and here's where I'll push back a little bit about our council members, not just because they're my bosses, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for them, only because in my engagement with them and my conversations with them around whatever topic it may be, they are incredibly thoughtful. Councilor Austin, her thing was she wanted to know, will a class 4 misdemeanor affect someone from getting a voucher? Great question.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that answer, so I had to go research it and find out. And so these conversations have been happening. We did the draft ordinance, and it was put on the agenda. And I got there and spoke about it, and I think what's important for me, and this is where I say I thought that meeting actually was very helpful, because it was very clear. Council was very clear, and this is what our officers need. Right? We need our governing body to be very clear, and they were very clear that this is not something we're going to do. Not without a low barrier shelter or a place for them to go. And so what it tells me is that we are not going to be involved because we get a lot of calls about, unhoused individuals either laid out on the mall or laid out here or this or that. Ain't us, right? Now, if there's an underlying crime, different story. That's our job, right? But simply moving these encampments, is which we've been tasked with doing now for a good year and a half, 2 years now, with this very weird situation. Our officers, we have no legal framework, no legal authority to do so. It puts our officers in very difficult situations. God forbid something happens. We had no legal reason to be there anymore. Anyway, the city's on the hook for that, and the police department's on the hook for it.
That's clear cut now.
Clear cut. Council was very clear,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. I really do. People are going to yell at me. People are going to do things. I call that Tuesday, right? I mean, that just happens. No big deal, right? And I don't mind that. As a police chief, and I've said this before, the day I can't sit in a room and have difficult conversations about race and policing and all the hot topics of the day, and take those tough conversations, that's when I hang it up.
Walk us through the mindset when you were presenting. It was roughly 10 or 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Do you hear the heckling or the catcalls?
I mean, you hear, but you don't really hear like exactly what they're saying.
Yeah.
I'm focused on doing my job and presenting the council.
You don't strike me as a guy who gets interrupted often.
Well, my wife will interrupt me sometimes.
I know what that's like.
She has no problem doing that.
I know what that's
right? But it's like I said, it's if you've been doing this job long enough, and if you've been, I'm going on 6 years as a chief in 2 different jurisdictions. Like, I guess perspective really helps. Yeah. So I've seen a lot worse. So, yeah.
The interaction he's presenting on Tuesday night to council and the folks that are in attendance and all of us that are watching on the stream, the pros and cons of the ordinance. Perhaps that's a good starting point. The pros and cons of what was being discussed. I thought your presentation was succinct.
Yeah.
It was understandable. It did not use jargon.
Nope.
You do it at a way where a layman can understand, and you present it in an approachable fashion. Can we discuss the pros and cons of what we were talking?
Yeah, I think people just want that. They don't want to be talked over. They don't want to be, make you think like you know more than them or anything like that. So I'll tell you, the con, it doesn't solve homelessness. It doesn't. The ordinance is not designed to do that. It is one piece of a very comprehensive plan that the city manager has laid out, right? The pro, it gives our officers a legal framework when they're asked to go address a very sad situation, right? Because we're talking to any one of us, and our officers know that. I got to tell you, Jerry, when I watch body cam footage of our officers engaging with our unhoused community, they take money out of their pockets to get them hotel rooms sometimes. They care about them. And it's as frustrating for them as it is for anyone else. They're like, where are they going to go? You can't lay here anymore. Really? Well, I'm a cop telling you can't lay here anymore. In the back of their mind, they're like, I really can't tell you that because there's nothing that says you can't lay there or be camped out in the middle of the mall, right? Like, so it's tough for them, you know? So this one of the big pros, it gives a legal framework to do that. And it also, it wasn't just the ordinance. I think it keeps getting missed that there is an SOP, standard operating procedure, dictates how we operate within that ordinance. We have it in the police department, we have our general orders. Our general orders are way more restrictive than the law. So I'll give you an example, vehicle pursuits. If you violate the law and you run in a car, by law, a police officer can chase you. Our policy is not that simple. Our policy requires that if you run, we can only chase you if you commit a violent felony or it's a stolen vehicle or a misdemeanor involving a firearm. And that's by design. And so, you know, I think there was a lot of pros to it. But again, like I said at the end, this is our form of government, right? They are the elected leaders of this city, and it is their decision to either do it or don't. And I respect it, whatever it may be. I respect everybody up there on that dais.
I trust your judgment. This is a question from Mike Kochis, the man, and not Mike Kochis, the police chief.
Okay.
Does Mike Kochis, the man, in favor of the ordinance or against the ordinance?
So I think my last slide that talks about the pros and cons, I will tell you, Mike Kochis, the man, knows a lot of these people individually, a lot of these folks, right, who when you hear their story, you can't help but think, man, I could have been there one day. I was close at some point, right? And they're, by and large, good folks. They really are. And so I always try to remember the humanity in what we're doing, and I think that showed through. And everybody on that work group that put that ordinance together, I will tell you, you know, these things were well thought out. So I know I'm kind of talking around your question. I'm not sure it's my place to give my personal opinion as to whether we should have this ordinance or not, but it's my place to make sure that I present everything to council and let them make their decision.
I thought the ordinance was very humane
Oh,
and
yeah,
very
absolutely.
full of empathy and patience. I mean, in a situation where there's a houseless individual that's not, you know, committing a crime, there was a 10 days notice
Yeah.
that you got to move. Like literally give them 10 days a heads up.
Yep.
And then when the 10 days expired, if they were still there, you gently nudge them, and then we'll store their possessions at no charge for 60 days.
Jerry, we do that now.
Yeah.
We store people's we have a container where if folks have so much stuff and they're just like pushing it around and like, hey, you need it, we'll allow them to store it there. We'll tag it for them. They need to get like a few items. They come to the police department 24 hours a day. Say, hey, I need to get a few items. An officer will come and they'll go get it for. They can pick what they need.
Unbelievable. I didn't know that.
We do that now. Absolutely. We've been doing it for some time.
It seems to me it was the definition of humane, and then you got into because this came up in the in your speaking portion of the council meeting. If the houseless individual did get hit with was it class 4 misdemeanor?
Misdemeanor, yep.
The fine, there was a fine. It was not jail time. It didn't prevent them from getting a voucher.
That's correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm. No, it does not. So I spoke with Joe Platania. About this, and he told me, you know, you can say that you spoke about this. You would not get a capias or a warrant for failure to pay fines for a class 4 misdemeanor.
Yeah, it was.
So he's the Commonwealth attorney that would ask for that.
One of the most humane ordinances possible.
It was pretty humane.
Another thing that struck me from what you said, and you said it better than I can, and I'm going to paraphrase it here, and I hope you correct my paraphrasing. You said in your presentation to council on the ordinance and the camping and storage ordinance that we have to do what's best for our houseless population, but not at the negative impact of our already housed population and our business community. And that statement was like a microcosm of what we're trying to do here. It's a hand up for the houseless while also creating a positive ecosystem for those that are taxpayers, homeowners, renters, and business owners in Charlottesville.
Well, and, you know, speak about our unhoused community, some of these encampments become incredibly dangerous.
You offered the anecdote.
Oh, yeah.
Under Freebridge.
Under Freebridge is a perfect example. I mean, and when I speak to folks in the unhoused community and talk to them, like, they'll tell you, and they've said, like, you know, one couple that I talked to was like, Chief, I'm not going to go to a shelter. I'm not going to. I don't want to be in an encampment with a bunch of people because the things that happen in those encampments. This is their words, not mine, right? And I said, so what is it? He's like, they want what you and I have. It's freedom. They want to be able to come and go as they please, right? They want what we have. That's what this is ultimately about for a lot of people. I mean, there's lots of different anecdotes and reasons why people are homeless and what they want, but yeah, it's a complex issue, man. And you know, I am happy that it was very clear, that council made it clear. I think that's helpful for the police department that we're not going to do that. If that changes, then it changes. But at this point,
Offer the viewers and listeners the anecdote with the Freebridge encampment, which was recently cleared by your department.
Yeah, so I had lunch with a gentleman who was living underneath the Freebridge there, and he specifically asked me. He said, "Well, Chief, you know," so he had just moved from underneath there, and he said, "But Chief, he liked being under there because it had cover or shade, but he said it was incredibly dangerous because the water rises really quickly, and it rises quickly because when we get a lot of rain, the dam has to be like opened to release pressure and stuff like that." And he had asked, he was, is there a way to have an alarm on the dam when they open it so we know we can get up and go? I mean, I think that speaks volumes to the issue we're talking about, you know? So yeah, some of these encampments can be very dangerous.
How did you get put in the position? Were you asked to present the ordinance? I mean, why was this chief conscious?
Well,
why
because
was
we're talking about a law that's going to be enforced, right? We knew
Okay.
that it's going to be something that we knew that it's going to be those are going to be the majority of the questions, like class 4 misdemeanor. What does it mean? What does it look like? You know, all that stuff. So it just made sense, right? But the development of it and all of that was a collaborative approach with a lot of people. And
Did you know going into the presentation that it was going to be rowdy potentially?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it was rowdy.
Okay.
I mean, like, I don't know. I guess I'm just used to council meetings. That's where I come from, where people yell or clap and have signs and stuff. So I expected that, but but again, it's like, you know, people care. It's a topic that people care about. Most things that I would have to present, they're going to be things that people are pretty passionate about, and you know that getting into it.
These are my words here, not your words. I was disappointed, for example, when Kevin Cox was speaking about his, crosswalk activism. Brian Pinkston, the counselor, was quick to put Kevin Cox in check when he started going after Brennan Duncan, the traffic engineer. Very quick.
So I think, again,
that didn't happen on Tuesday night.
It did not. Well, but again, remember, if I remember correctly, the vice mayor at that time the mayor wasn't there, was actually sitting in as the mayor.
That's correct.
And the mayor is the one who is in charge of that type of stuff.
Monitoring the meeting.
Monitoring the meeting.
Yeah.
So I suspect the reason why he was the person that did that then was because he was sitting in as the mayor.
Okay.
I guess. Again,
Okay.
I don't know, but...
So I guess we could chalk that up then, that Brian Pinkston was monitoring the meeting with Kevin Cox. So he chose a different tactic of moderation, where Tuesday night's meeting was monitored by Juan Diego Wade, and his tactic of moderation was essentially utilizing the word please over and over again throughout the meeting to get people to be quiet.
I guess.
Yeah, and that's just from a vantage point. So this is disheartening. What's disheartening to me is now if there is any kind of commotion or concern with the houseless population in the city, and a call is made by a taxpayer, a homeowner, a business owner, or a tenant to the police department, which is a natural inclination.
Of course,
is to call the police.
we're still to call a choice.
Is the police department. Now the police department is the protocol for the other person that's on the line for the caller. Will the police department say, we can't do anything about this?
No, we'll respond.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
We will respond. If there's an underlying criminal charge, we'll address a reason to be there. But if just simply somebody is like laying flat out on the mall with a bunch of their stuff all around and stuff, and there's no other crime, we're not, we have no legal authority to make them move.
Okay. So is from my standpoint, that would seem like it's potentially going to get worse before it gets better.
I think it could. I mean, so the numbers we're seeing now, and again, you can't associate these numbers specifically to our unhoused population. So
Okay.
I want to be clear with that. And you just don't know, because we don't collect data like that. We don't say this person's unhoused, this one's not. But when you look at, say, Part 1 crime in the city overall, year to date, Part 1 crime is down. It's down somewhere between 6 to 8%, right? But when you break out the downtown mall, it's actually up. It's up 16%. So Part 1 crime, our most serious crime right now, when you look at the downtown mall, that is our hotspot. And so the most serious crime we are seeing is on the downtown mall, or I shouldn't say the most serious crime. Well, Part 1 crime is our most serious crime, but it is up 16% on the downtown mall year to date.
Is it
And I can't, like I said, I want to say this, I can't specifically associate that to our unhoused community because we don't collect the data that way.
But
I mean, we had 2 shootings in a week on the mall, people letting out of bars.
That's true.
They weren't unhoused.
They were unhoused. That's fair. That's a good point. That's fair. Michael Payne's explanation of the de facto process now. If there's a positive of that interaction, I thought it was Payne's explanation. This is what happens now. Can we walk through that for the viewers? Because I learned from that.
Yeah. So right now, let's use that scenario. So there's an outdoor dining area. People are out there dining, and someone's just laying out with all their stuff, and they're just sprawled out, laying out right there. Right now, our officers go there and are like, "Hey, ma'am, could you, or sir, could you leave? Could you, move on, or let's go this way or that way?" And by their presence, being in uniform,
Of
there is
course.
this assumption.
There's
that
authority.
Right. That
Yeah.
you bring this assumption that they're telling you it's because the law says you can. And it was putting us in a really difficult situation. And so it's like, okay, as the chief, as law enforcement, we're like, okay, well, where are our policymakers on this? What do they want? What do they want to see in this type of scenario? And so that's why I say I think there was value to, from the police department standpoint, there was value to what happened Tuesday night because it was very clear that they do not want us doing that. And that's good because we also we want to stop putting our officers in those situations where they don't have the legal authority to be doing this stuff.
Comments are coming in quickly. This is from local luminary Roger Voisinay. Roger's been in Charlottesville for as long as I know. He says, with the Free Bridge encampment, it's not the folks that are just in danger under the bridge at the encampment when the water level gets high. All the homes that are downriver, when the water gets high, the possessions start going down the river into their backyards.
Yeah, so what we were seeing there as well, like shopping carts, there were some of those VO scooters were in the water. I guess there was a report of like batteries dripping into the water, all that kind of stuff.
This question's come in. How does the police chief balance the overall safety of residents in the community with the foundation of giving the business community a strong footing?
Well, I mean, it's our, we want to make sure, and this is the city council's vision in their strategic plan is that everybody thrives, right? And so that includes our unhoused neighbors, that includes our business community, right? The economic driver of this city, or at least in the central district that we call it. How do you balance it? I mean, look, it's a balancing act in everything we do. We prioritize, where our resources are going to be deployed on a regular basis. We know that we are not the solution to violent crime, right? We're the goalie, right, on the soccer field, but we're continue to be the call of choice, and so we'll be there.
What do you think the role of a low barrier shelter or additional shelter construction plays in solving this problem?
It's one piece. But look, building a shelter it's not just about building a shelter. You also got to figure out who's going to run that shelter. That's another challenge that I could tell you the city manager is working through on like a daily basis. I mean, he's worked his butt off on this topic. But again, there's folks that don't want it in their backyard, right? There are folks who I will tell you right now that right now we don't have anyone to run the shelter. Right, and so that's going to be the big one. You could find a building, you could throw a bunch of money at it.
So that'd be a nonprofit,
or anyone.
Or I guess nonprofit.
The city, we don't have a department. We don't have a department in the city government that would run run a low barrier shelter.
What is the, did you think CVille was a good spot for it?
I don't think it's my place to say where it should be.
Okay.
Right? You tell me where it's going to be, and we'll work to make it safe.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, I think council is going to ultimately they make that decision. So.
How about there's been changes at the Salvation Army?
Yeah, there's new leadership there.
New leadership. New leadership spoke before council.
Yeah.
Seems to me that the shelter with partnership with the Salvation Army would be a slam dunk. But then at the same time, I understand that you need someone either in the for-profit space or the not-profit space to run the day-to-day operations. And finding someone that's going to run a low-barrier shelter is not going to be easy because of the margin of running a shelter, the business model of running a shelter is not necessarily a lucrative one. What is the role, do you think, that council and Mr. Sam Sanders, the city manager, plays in finding a shelter site to help build structure for low barrier or for everyday shelter residents? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this would seem to be priority number one.
It's a major priority. I mean, look, don't get confused. It's not going to solve the issue, but it's one piece to this, right? And
Payne
so,
said we're like over a year away. Snook said we're over a year away,
if we're lucky.
if we're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, because you're going to have to either build it or renovate something, and then again, finding someone to run it. And then what about are you just going to have a place where people sleep, or are you going to also provide wraparound services? That's a whole other question. Who's going to do that? So there's a lot that goes into this conversation about a low barrier shelter or anything else. But I can tell you in the conversations I've had, been involved in with council and with the city manager, which is on a regular basis, they talk about this stuff all the time. And I'll say, you know, there was, and I just think people, you know, they don't know, right? So folks, they're not involved in these conversations, so they don't know how thoughtful our council members are. They don't know the thoughtfulness and the hard work our city staff does every day on this topic. I mean, we are challenged by the city manager constantly on trying to figure a lot of these things out. But ultimately, yeah, council is going to have to make that call. And I'm not sure it's going to be the solution, but it is a piece to it.
What did you think of the way that Greer Achenbach was treated in the meeting?
So Greer is I like Greer.
Same.
Greer, yeah,
I respect her tremendously.
Yeah, of course. Yes, she's great. She represents an organization, right? And so she was there representing that organization. I'll say this: I'm the police chief. I'm part of government. I expect to be yelled at, all that kind of stuff. Other folks, whether it be Greer or anyone else who gets up there to speak on behalf, they should be allowed to speak. That's my opinion. But again, you know, I'm not sure that's the first time that's happened. That's happened before.
It happened in the past.
Uh-huh.
The last time was when she was there with Joan Fenton, and a couple of months ago. What's the dynamic like with you as the police chief and the police department with what I think is an influential group, Livable CVille? From my standpoint, these are my words: influential in a lot of the wrong ways. And not necessarily building a better community. Those are my words, not his. But what's the dynamic like with you and the department at Livable CVille?
There isn't one. I don't know much about them.
I'm concerned, just as like a dad, and you're a dad too, a husband, when like my wife makes the comments, I don't want to bring the boys downtown. That worries me, especially as I've highlighted on the show, that like this building is part of like, you know, our retirement for our family. I'm also concerned that until we get this low barrier shelter built, and both Michael Payne and Lloyd Snook said on the dais, we're at least a year away from a shelter being built. I think that, as you've highlighted, is ambitious, that we may be in this position where this is going to get worse before it gets better.
Could.
And I don't see a clear path here to figuring this out.
Well, if we could figure this out, Jerry, we both would probably have different jobs, making a lot of money somewhere. And this is something that when I talk to my peers, other jurisdictions are struggling with.
With the same?
A lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
So I was talking with the chief yesterday of Blacksburg, who's a friend of mine. who was just talking about, not necessarily Blacksburg, but another jurisdiction that he was saying they're dealing with some similar stuff. You know, just when I was sitting here, I was talking to Chief Alexandria. We were talking about it as well, and he has other challenges they're dealing with. So, like, this is an issue that I think communities are struggling with across the country, and I'm not sure anybody has the right answer or a answer.
You mentioned jobs. Can for my sake and the viewers and listeners' sakes, would you reassure them at all about Charlottesville and you?
Me in charge?
Yeah.
I ain't going anywhere.
Okay.
I love my job. You know, I really do, and I love this community. I didn't get into this job to be, you know, because it was easy. I mean, it's I don't know. I enjoy what I do. I'm not going anywhere. Things like Tuesday night, that won't be the last time I get yelled at, and it wasn't the first. So.
Comments coming in quickly. This one via Twitter DM. It's interesting to hear that the crux of the issue is that there's no legal authority to make people move along. So I get why then you need an ordinance, but people seem upset about the penalties. Could you have, for example, an ordinance that makes the penalty like $10 or something extremely nominal?
I mean, you could. That wouldn't be something we would do. I mean, there was a question like, why not make it a civil penalty? I think the challenge with that is for a civil penalty, it really doesn't give us any really much authority at all. So when we walk up and say, hey, you need to leave, and if they just say, forget you, we're not leaving, too bad, so sad, we have no recourse, right? So right now, even a class 4 misdemeanor where that doesn't carry any jail time, if somebody refuses to discontinue that unlawful act, we at least now, under a class 4 misdemeanor, would have the authority to take them into custody and bring them before a magistrate, where the magistrate would then issue a summons to come to court. So, a little difference, a lot of nuance there, but I thought it was an interesting idea. But the lawyers got to figure that piece out.
You mentioned on previous shows with the crime that's happening in Charlottesville that it's such a small percentage of the population.
It really is.
What was the data set that you offered on previous shows?
Which one?
Was it the violent crime was being committed by?
I mean, honestly, we're probably talking, if I were to sit down with my detectives, they'd probably give me like 20 names.
20 names for the violent crime in
probably,
the city?
Yeah, most.
And you guys know who they are, all 20?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
But, Jerry, if you went to most cities, they would probably, I mean, bigger cities, obviously, you'd probably see.
Yeah. It would be the same thing.
But it'd be the same thing.
Right.
You know, 100 robberies aren't committed by 100 different people.
Right.
You know, and again, these are complex issues other than, you know, we could say, you know, law and order and lock people up and throw them in jail. That doesn't solve the issue, right? I think we need to get to a point, not only here, but in this country, and I'll try to stay away from all the politics part of that stuff, but we need to have a more nuanced conversation around violent crime other than, and I say this all the time, other than like jump out squads and flock cameras, right? The conversation's much more deeper than that. Needs to be a much more nuanced conversation. It's complex. There are a lot more people involved when we talk about addressing violent crime that need to be involved in it. I was just on the phone last night with folks talking about violent crime, and I was talking with John Sales from CRHA. Mm-hmm. I was talking with Ben Allen from UVA, from there, about addressing issues around violent crime and specific individuals. So, like, we can't do it all, nor should we be doing it all. There's other players at the table.
So there's a perfect transition. About 20 people causing the violent crime in the city. The houseless population, I believe the number is a back of the napkin, 240 people?
Somewhere around there.
Around 240. Mm-hmm. Of the 240 in the houseless population, what is the percentage of the number that are causing trouble in that demographic?
We talk about violent crime.
Or just...
We don't see a lot of violent crime around our house. I mean, they're not, and here's the thing, right? The reason why we've been successful, and I would just say lucky, mm-hmm. right? When we ask people to move and go...
Because they do.
They do.
Yeah.
But they probably do because they think we have some legal authority to do so, right? And they don't want to get arrested. They don't. Again, we were just talking earlier about why a lot of these folks won't go to a shelter or why they won't, because it's about their freedom. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They also don't want to go to a jail. Mm-hmm. right? And so they, yeah. So it's. I think they're not criminals, right? And that was a conversation that kept coming up. We're criminalizing homelessness. We're criminalizing homelessness. No, that's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah. It was the absolute opposite of it for me.
I agree.
It was the opposite. It was empathy and trying to figure out the solution. There was empathy offered. You mentioned this, and I thought this resonated with me because there was an organized campaign against this ordinance. And the reason I brought up Livable CVille is they led the campaign against it with a stock email that they
like the
copy
apps?
and paste.
Yeah.
They're like, copy and paste this email and use social media. It's a couple hundred. Payne and the counselors highlighted, we got a couple hundred. They constantly referenced a couple hundred of these coming in. You also highlighted on the record, for all the ones that I'm hearing come in, I get a ton
I get a lot.
on the other side of the fence.
We do. Not only me. I know council does.
Can you put that in perspective?
Well, yeah, because we get them all the time. And when council gets them, a lot of times they get forwarded to me, or these are the ones that I know about. Like, so I have 2 emails, and my assistant manages most of the emails that come through to me. So she probably sees more of them than I do. But yeah, they come in. They come to the city manager's office. They come through the apps that the city has, to file complaints. Yeah, we get a lot. But yeah, the emails. I've seen those before. Like I don't know if they're bots or if they're. I think you can get an app and you can like put a name in it. 100%. And then it sends like the emails and stuff. But it's all the same email.
Right. So you're 100%.
I mean,
right.
I'll be honest with you. I don't read a lot of them. I read if it's the same. I'll read one. I know.
It was the instruction was to copy and paste this, then just to flood inboxes, basically spamming. Because then the perception is that there's a volume of support here, but really it's just the same email that's being utilized.
Yeah, and I don't want to discount like their, the support for their. I mean, they're speaking for someone, right? I mean, 200 people showed up at council, right, and made their voices heard. I mean, that's this system of government. That's what people should do when they have a grievance with their government. Show up and express that grievance and do it publicly. I mean, that's why we live in this country.
I think this topic is so nuanced. I mean,
it really is. It's more nuanced than just slogans.
100%. 100%. And it's so nuanced because we want to offer a hand up instead of hand out. And we want to do it in a way that's humane and empathetic for our houseless population that's roughly 240 people. We don't want to put the police department in an awkward position because they didn't sign up for the job to be essentially social workers. They signed up for the job to protect a framework of how we live in this city. And we don't have that right now with the houseless population. The other nuance, or one of the many other nuance elements of this is impacting the economy. Tax collection revenue, and Neil Williamson is going to be on the program tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. He sent slides to talk about the tax collections and the state of government, the state of the economy that he's going to highlight. He's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. Charlottesville City's down, and Charlottesville City is losing market share economically, tax revenue-wise, small business-wise, to Albemarle County and the other counties around it.
I've heard that. I don't.
It's
documented. Outside my it's outside my wheelhouse, but
yeah,
I've heard that.
Chris Engels documented it.
Yeah.
Furthering other examples of this are in the last 2 weeks, the owner of Alakazam announced that she's going to close her toy store in the downtown mall. Greer, the Friends of CVille executive director, in her presentation on Tuesday night, said that the sales were down by 1/3 at Alakazam. And it was attributable to parents not wanting to bring their kids to downtown Charlottesville. Last night, and viewers and listeners may not know this, they probably don't, Stefan Friedman, who's one of the more prolific restaurateurs in this area, he owns Vitae Spirits, Ace Biscuit and Barbecue, Bonnie and Reed, has Draft Tap Room, which hasn't opened, was one of the guys behind Little Johnson. I don't know, I hope it opens. His co-owner at Draft Tap Room is one of the QIM guys.
Okay.
But he announced, Stefan Friedman and Bonnie and Reed, that they were going to close on the 15th of September.
Wow.
So in the last 2 weeks, 2 extremely prominent storefronts are shuttering downtown.
Yeah.
Eventually, if you're Chris Engel or Sam Sanders, my words, or the city council, you got to start asking yourself if tax collection, incremental tax revenue, or just tax revenue based on year-over-year data does not maintain or at least increase because we have inflation, then what are we going to do about the deficit? And if we have to go to the residents to raise taxes even more, that's going to just create a nasty cycle of potentially more homelessness.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, it makes sense. You know, it does. The other thing that you know that the city manager has worked to try to do is get it's a program called Block by Block, and it's like almost like ambassadors for the downtown mall where they go and they clean up. Roanoke does this for their thing, but when I was speaking to my peers and that have this, they're like, look, you can't do that unless you have some type of legal mechanism to move folks and their stuff, because then you're just going to be cleaning around it, right? So that's the other piece. I don't see how that program starts or begins until we have some type of legal mechanism to address it.
Well, and we had, and this might have been before your arrival, we had the yellow shirted ambassadors on the downtown mall.
No, I was here when they did it for a little while. Yeah,
Okay.
when I think when they did it before.
UVA, I think, paid for it.
They did. UVA paid for it.
Yeah, and that lasted like a New York minute.
Yeah.
Before they realized that they do still do it, I believe, on the corner.
Yeah, they do it. I mean, they do it in my name. I see they're in the area, like the Joint Patrol area, where UPD and a lot of students live.
Yeah. What's the model, do you think, that's out there that could be used as a benchmark for Charlottesville and how to figure this out? You mentioned Roanoke a lot.
Roanoke, the Chief Booth down there, he and I are very close. We're good friends, and we speak a lot on this. They have a shelter there, right? They have they have other resources there. They have a homeless assistance team. They have a lot of things they have done over the years. And so I think that's a model. There's a model out in Arizona. I was just speaking to Alexandria's chief. He was asking me if I've read it. It was like either DOJ or Department of Justice report on a jurisdiction out in Arizona that did some stuff that seemed to be effective. So I think there are things out there to look at, you know, but I'm not sure anybody's figured it out completely.
Holly Foster offers this comment. Mike Hodges is such a calm and reasonable leader. Charlottesville is lucky to have him. That comment's all over the feed right now. You made this comment, I think, in Tuesday night's meeting, and I totally agreed with what you said. Our president, in executive order on homelessness and what his idea was to clean up the city, even took it a step further that said the cities that utilize this executive order, we will prioritize them for federal funding. Yeah. And you made the reference, I think it was Tuesday night.
Yeah, it was. That's not helpful.
Right. And
I would say that, and it has nothing to do with politics and all that, because I know I get blasted from both sides, so that's fine.
Right.
But like the executive order is not helpful. Let governments do their damn job. It's most of what we deal with is local, and that's what matters, right? And so we started this process in April, right, of this ordinance.
Before the executive order.
Before the executive order. Way before the executive order. Right. Yeah. But when that came out, I remember, look at my wife, I was like, well, that's not helpful.
Yeah, it's going to fuel the fire.
Yeah, you know, I try to focus on what I have control over or am responsible for, and that's things in this city and stuff on a national level just sometimes not helpful.
I'm very curious to see, and we don't know, and this is just hindsight or conversation for a show. Had that executive order not happened, which I believe was in July, would have this been handled differently? Because it's an extremely liberal and left-leaning city, and obviously there was backlash on the executive order. Also, and I give props to Sean Tubbs. I think he's a fantastic reporter. The two best reporters in this community are Hall Spencer and Sean Tubbs. Sean published an article on the CVille Weekly website. I'm surprised he didn't publish this on his Charlottesville Substack about what was coming on the agenda. And
he did. He asked. Well, in all fairness to Sean, he asked to interview me beforehand.
Yeah.
So like, because it's, I think his headline on this thing was like, Chiefs bringing this forward and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not his fault. I can't go and speak to the media, nor would it be appropriate for me to do that. before our policymakers, the people I work for, before they get to even see it.
100%.
Right? Like,
It just
and
makes sense.
now they knew it was coming. It was on the agenda. We went over the draft ordinance during meetings. They knew that, but like they didn't know my presentation.
Sure.
And so it wouldn't have been appropriate. But yeah, I saw that article, and as soon as I was
The headline was clickbait. And
Oh,
Sean,
yeah.
Sean doesn't write the headlines, and we know that from the Hall Spencer thing.
We've had conversations
Yeah.
about headlines.
Right,
That's
right.
fine.
We know
It
that
is
from the
what
Hall
it is.
Spencer thing. Sean doesn't write the headlines, but the headline, whoever wrote it, was clickbait with the CVille Weekly. What was intriguing about that is that article was published at the end of the week, maybe even over the weekend,
Yeah.
which is odd because I'm very familiar with Bill Chapman's and Blair Kelly. They own the CVille Weekly, their editorial publishing schedule, and headlines aren't published, or stories aren't published then.
Yeah.
So this story was published out of their traditional news publication cycle.
Yeah,
And then when that story made it on social media, then Nikiah Walker, Matthew Gillikin, an extremely left-leaning Reddit, jumped all over the story. And that story became kind of a trampoline point for the activists that showed up on Tuesday night, including finger-wagging Matthew Gillikin, saying shame, shame to council that this was on an agenda or a talking point over a holiday weekend.
Yeah, and so I heard that, and what
Almost
else?
as if they were trying to hide.
This was on the city manager's list.
Right. That's what I want to
Like
emphasize.
a year and a half ago, or whenever it was, when the manager put this out there, is the long list of things to do in this area. That was on there. So, and Councilor Payne actually mentioned that, which I appreciate. I think, again, all our councilors are just thoughtful, and they got a hard job, man. They got to sit up there and take it from all different sides, and this was nothing new. It really
Yeah,
wasn't.
this was not, I'm trying to clear up the misconception that's being, I think it's misinformation by those that are opposed to this ordinance that said that council tried to sneak one past us, almost like an empty net when a team's down in hockey and they pull the goalie.
Yeah, no,
this was on there for well in advance.
Yes, and again, this has been a conversation.
Right.
There was a work group. It wasn't a secret thing. Looking back, could we have done more? Could I have had more people at the table? Or sure. And I think, we would be irresponsible not to look at that, with other things and say, hey, you know what? Next time we put a work group together, maybe involve these folks or this person or that. We should be having those conversations, So, but yeah, that didn't happen. I mean, like I said, this was on the manager's list, as Councilor Payne said.
And on a public agenda.
Yeah.
Well in advance. Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, highlights the 2025 first quarter retail report. It's a year-over-year look on sales tax revenue collection, 2025 versus 2024. And in the first quarter of 2025 in Charlottesville City, tax collection, local sales tax revenue collection, was down more than 2.5 points.
Does that include meals tax?
That includes the year-over-year local sales tax revenue collection. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, sir. So that's all tax collection, down 2.5% just in the first quarter. He's going to come on, Neil, tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. on our network to talk about where we stand now. But this is an extremely important point to emphasize. And Chief Kachis knows this very well. If the tax revenue collection continues to fall, and the city loses tax collection market share to surrounding jurisdictions, the city is going to have to make that lost revenue up somehow, and the only lever that they can pull is tax increases on
They have
meals
very
tax.
few levers. You're
Very
right.
few levers.
Yeah.
So that probably would mean a real estate tax increase or a meals tax increase, and those are gentrifying levers. Gentrifying levers.
I will say it's not getting cheaper to live in the city.
Right. Comments coming in faster than I can keep up. And viewers and listeners, I'm going to try to get to as many of these as possible. This one is a joyous one. Thank goodness he's here to stay. And you're emphasizing this.
I've said that. You nailed me out on that every time. I'm good.
Well, I mean, I like you here. And I saw what it was like before you got here, and it was not pretty, Chief Kachis. And maybe initially I'd said Tito, and I love Tito, but I'm like, things are working out pretty good with you here.
I will also say this is probably the strongest department head group
You're crushing
that
it.
I've ever. No, I mean not just me. Like department heads in general in the city. like we have a solid, like the city manager has put together a solid group of leaders in these organizations.
Well, I
and
mean, the
that's
city
helpful.
manager, and props to Sam Sanders, tip of the cap to Sam Sanders. He had a revolving door at city attorney. One of them watching the program now, John Blair. He's got John Maddox in. John Maddox was cracking dad jokes on the dais on Tuesday night with the John Grisham script and the Danny DeVito.
John's great.
He was
John,
great.
I like John.
when he made the joke, I don't think people at the time realized that he was crying. I thought it was hilarious. I'm literally at my house on the recliner, drinking a beer, watching you guys on the dais, and I'm like, did he just say I want Danny DeVito to play me in the movie?
Right, he did.
And I was like, that's, I think, hilarious. We're junkies for this stuff here.
Yes.
But he's got the assistant city managers in, right?
Yeah,
They're doing a pretty good job.
Very good job.
Yeah? You're doing, dude, you filled your department.
Yeah, I mean,
What's the vacancy over there?
We bump up to about full staff. We're with usually about a handful. It
Okay.
just depends, right? We're not, people retire, leave, whatever, right? But yeah, so we're close. Yeah, we're in good shape. But like our public works director's a rock star. NDS,
From Loudon. She's from Loudon, I think.
Kelly came from Arlington.
Arlington. Okay.
Yep.
Arlington.
Yeah, Human Services, Misty Graves. Like we got a good team.
Interviewing you is great. We're an hour in. Why don't we close with anything? And if anything you want to add? Okay, you're good. Okay. Anything that we have not covered? Anything we should cover? Any message to the community? You got the media watching. You got a lot of people watching you here.
Now, I'll just say this. There's been a lot of talk about like what this meeting was Tuesday night and this and that. And I've spoken to some folks that I have some good relationships with that were there and that were pretty upset, right, about this. But that, again, going back to that first meeting, at Trinity Church in 10th and Page, right? You were there. The reason people get fired up is because they care. This is a community where people care about things. And this specific topic, I mean, and so we should be encouraged by that, right? I mean, we could all judge about how we should handle dissent, right? But as long as it's peaceful, like I thought it was fine, and was encouraged again that we got some clarity, and that our community cares about these things.
Mike Kochis, guys, the chief of police in Charlottesville. I'll say it again. I will continue to say this. There's no person, man or woman, that has had more of a positive impact on Charlottesville than Mike Kochis, and I sincerely mean that. It was a dangerous time in Charlottesville before he arrived here. And he was put in a difficult predicament on Tuesday night, and he managed it with grace and level-headedness. And I can say, just from my standpoint, I would not have handled it nearly as well as he did. And he handled it extremely well. I think the future is bright, and I've asked him twice, and he's staying here, which is good. For the viewers and listeners that we didn't get your questions
My wife and I even bought electric bikes.
Get out of town.
And we ride them all around, and it's great. And, you can't do that in a lot of places. So
fantastic. So we may see Chief Kochis on an electric bike?
We were just, I mean, we cruise around. You'll see us.
Fantastic.
Those things are fun.
They are fun. They're like
a
lot of fun.
30 miles an hour.
Those things move.
They move. They're
Yeah, they move. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Judah, thank you. Show archive wherever you get your social media and podcasting content. Back in the saddle tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Neil Williamson, who's going to be directly talking about tax revenue collections for the Charlottesville City, for City Hall, and comparing it to last year and previous years. I think it's going to be an eye-opening conversation at 10:15 a.m. No one's giving you this long-form content, folks. Thank you for joining us.